your CSA coach with Shared Legacy Farms, and I'm just going to take a second to quick sign in on my phone. This video is live in our CSA private Facebook group, so I want to make sure that I can see if anyone has any questions, if they're able to hop on today. So today's tutorial are on these white snacking turnips, or hickory turnips. This is a pretty popular item in our CSA box over the season that usually shows up in the spring and again in the fall. They are definitely not your average turnip. So they look like this. They're a little bit smaller than some of the larger turnips that you might see in the store, and they actually taste a lot different. So these turnips can be in cooked or raw. When you get them home, they're usually still attached to their leaves, which are also edible, but we want to make sure that we separate the leaves from the roots. Otherwise, the turnips are going to get mushy on us a lot faster. So in order to preserve these veggies, when we get them home, we are just going to chop the leaves off. And we're just going to store them separately. So these guys, the roots, can be stored unwashed in just a regular Ziploc bag. Doesn't need to be anything special, and they'll be good at least for a week or so in your fridge. So I'm going to store those in here. And the leaves ideally could be stored in a green bag like this. The leaves are probably going to be good for a few days at least, if not a week when stored properly. So when you get the leaves, you can kind of go through and pick out the ones that are yellow or maybe not so green. If you want to, I'm just going to throw these in a green bag for right now. That's usually what happens to me when I get home from picking up my veggies. I just got to get them all stored properly wherever they need to go. So make sure that you separate those. So when it comes time to use them, actually I need to use a few of these as an example. When it comes time to use them, you're just going to rinse them off. These come from our local organic farm, Shared Legacy, so I'm not going to peel them or scrub them too much. But you can rinse them off. If I were getting them from a larger grocery store, I probably would go ahead and scrub them a little bit more, but there's really no need to peel them. And then you've got a few different options. Like I said, you can eat them raw, which I feel like is probably one of the more popular things that those in our CSA group do. So to eat them raw, you could add them to salads. My husband will actually just take a bite of one whole. You can slice them and use them as like veggie chips. So for hummus or for salsa, I used some with like tuna salad the other day. So you can definitely just slice them up and eat them raw. Some people will grate them. Some people will make like a coleslaw or like a slaw out of them. So when you go to use them, no need to peel. Just chop off the tops and the bottoms and go ahead and slice them up however you want to use them. When they're raw, they have a really nice sweet mild taste. These are a little bit more peppery than usual right now. I think Farmer Kurt told us that's because it got hot pretty fast here at the end of the season. But usually they have a sweet mild flavor. Right now they taste a little radishy, but they're still really, really delicious. If they were too peppery for you, then you could go ahead and cook them. So when you cook the turnips, just like when you cook a radish, you're going to take away some of that spiciness or pepperiness. So the other option is to cook these guys. You can roast them, you can boil them. I've got some roasting right now that we're going to pull out. So to roast them, you would just chop them up however you wanted to. I cut mine in kind of like wedges. You just want to make sure that they are all about the same size. And then you're just going to use your standard roasting recipe. So you're just going to cover them in some oil, some salt and pepper. You could also use some herbs if you wanted to. And roast them at 400 for probably 30 or 40 minutes. Maybe stir them once through. I actually have some here that I roasted in a cast iron pan. You can see they turned out pretty nice. They just look like little potatoes. I roasted these in the cast iron pan because I'm actually going to add some greens to them. So one of my favorite ways to eat root veggies like this, even like radishes, is to add the greens to the actual root after they've been cooked. So when you go to use your greens of your turnips, you just want to make sure that you wash them well. So dunk them in some cold water and then put them in a salad spinner to dry them. Turn this up. Put them in a salad spinner to dry them. You could even do that ahead of time if you wanted to before you put them in the green bag, as long as you got them pretty dry. And then the stems, you can see from those that we had previously, the stems are pretty long. The older the turnip, sometimes those can get a little too bitter or a little too hard. So you can cut those off if you want to, but you don't have to. They're also edible. So these were some turnip greens that I had washed and dried. You just want to go through and kind of remove, like I said, the browner or the yellow ones. The older the turnips, it's also going to apply to the greens, the stronger flavor that they're going to have. But when they're fresh, they tend to have a really nice peppery flavor. So they actually are really a great addition to a lot of dishes. They have more flavor than some of your other greens you might be used to. So I'm just going to kind of chop these up in small pieces here. I did remove some of the larger stems. I like adding greens when I can and cooking them because they cook down so much. You can eat so many of them in just a few bites. So I'm going to heat up my stove here. This pan is pretty hot, and I'm going to actually add some butter to these turnips that I already had roasted. Probably a couple tablespoons. And I'm going to let that melt, and I'm going to also add a little bit of minced garlic, or pressed garlic, to this mixture here. So I've already got my nice brown roasted turnips. I added some butter, some minced garlic, and now that butter is melted, I'm actually going to add these greens. And like I said, I also do this with radishes, but I really like the turnip greens because they tend to have a little bit more flavor to them, in my opinion. And then I'm actually just going to let these wilt down. I've got this on like medium heat, but the cast iron pan is pretty hot from being in the oven. So you could roast your turnips plain. You could also add the greens like this. The other option is you can also boil the turnips. And to boil them, you could just boil them in large pieces like this. Maybe just like you would potatoes. You can cut them up smaller, however fast you want them to cook. Some people like to do a mashed turnip. So that is an idea. If you're new to turnips, you can always mash them after you boil them, just like you would potatoes. So kind of use them as like a potato substitute. If you're not quite ready for 100% turnips in your turnip mash, you could also just do half turnips, half potatoes. So kind of mix half and half together. These greens are really wilting down. Smells good with the butter and the garlic. I'm going to go ahead and plate these up. So the other thing that I like to do with cooked turnips is I cut them into smaller cubes, and I actually boil them to kind of make like a hash to go along with breakfast. So getting veggies in first thing in the morning, ideally getting a vegetable in every meal is ideal. So kind of finding ways to sneak some different veggies into your breakfast is going to be helpful. So I'm going to quick scoop these out onto this plate because I'm going to use this cast iron pan again, and then you guys can see this. It smells really good. All these leaves out here. Alright, so this was our roasted turnips with our greens mixed in with a little bit of butter and garlic. Smells delicious. So you can see I had like several handfuls of greens that cooked down into just a small amount, and this is a really good way to enjoy enjoy those turnips along with their greens. And you can see, because I roasted the turnips in that cast iron pan, they turned out really nicely. So one way to enjoy both parts of the turnip is to roast and then saute them together. That I'm definitely going to eat later. So the other thing, like I said, that I do with turnips sometimes is make kind of like a hash. So you can boil turnips and make like a mashed potato out of them. Here I have some that I boiled. They were small cubes like this, so they actually cooked pretty quickly. And you would just put some oil in a pan. And I've got, again, some minced garlic and some leeks that I'm going to add to this one. So these leeks were actually cut up in my freezer. They're an item that you can just dice up and throw in a bag and go ahead and freeze. So for those mornings when I want to cook something and I don't have time to cut stuff up, or maybe don't have things in my fridge, that's a really easy go-to for me. So I have a little bit of oil. Those leeks are browning up, and I'm going to take my turnips here that I boiled ahead of time. These really do turn out really potato-like. So you can mash these up and make a mashed potato. I'm actually going to add them to my leeks over here. Ooh, gosh, I forgot that was hot. So I've got leeks, turnips, and my minced garlic. A lot of garlic I just added. I'm going to add a little bit of salt and pepper. And always remember, pairing a new vegetable, if your family's new to turnips, with a more common one like potatoes really increases the likelihood that they're going to accept it and probably like it a little bit more. So if your family likes a hash with potatoes, maybe try adding, even just a few turnips. And I bet you they won't even realize that they're there. I also will slice up turnips finely and add them to chicken fried rice or stir fry. And I don't think that my husband realizes that he's actually eating turnips. Oh, Gina, Cooking with Katie, can I be a guest on your show? Yes. We should get together and cook with the babies. Alright, so these actually aren't going to take that long because I already had them boiled. So that's another step that you could do as part of like your food prep, is boil your turnips ahead of time and maybe even keep them in the fridge, and that way you can just pull some out to make kind of like a hash that's a little bit faster. And I'm going to go ahead and crack a few eggs in here because I'm actually going to eat this for breakfast today. Cover that up for a few seconds and it will be pretty much done. So we've got boiling, roasting, hash, mixing it with the greens. Lots of great ways to eat these turnips, not to mention just eating them raw like this. Grating them up, adding them to salads, adding them to stir fries, using them as veggie chips. When we look at those greens, if you don't feel like cooking them with your turnips, they make a really great pesto. And we have a great pesto sheet or a pesto blog post that I will post in the comments so you can check that out. But because of their peppery flavor, they make a really great pesto. So pesto with these leaves, and then you can go ahead and freeze it if you're looking for an exit strategy. You can also blanch them and freeze them for later use. So don't be scared of the leaves of the turnip. You can definitely use those up. I'm going to quick check back to make sure I don't have any questions. I'll show this to you guys, but I'm not going to make you stay on the whole time until these eggs are cooked. So That was a really fast, easy breakfast. You can see in here I've got fried eggs and some cooked turnips with some garlic and some leeks. So as soon as those eggs are done, I am going to eat that for breakfast. So that is it. Quick little tutorial on snacking or white snacking turnips. I would highly recommend just starting by chopping them up and eating them raw. Feel free to ask questions in the comments and I will get back to you. And thank you for joining us. Again, this is Katie, your CSA coach with Shared Legacy Farms. Have a great morning, you guys.